Hi, good morning, everyone. Good morning from Singapore and probably good afternoon to most of you. Uh, Hope you are all doing well today. Just want to do a quick sound check first, so making sure that everyone can hear me. Just let me know in the chat if you can hear me. Okay, great. Great to hear that great to see that y'all can all hear me. So just so you know, sometimes there are planes flying by my place, so if it's a little bit noisy, I apologize for that. But otherwise, I will still continue trying to share with you during this webinar, and hopefully you can hear me clearly for the most part. So my name is Sujin, and I'm a psychologist and coach at Uprise. So Uprise is a well-being platform paid for by your company, and if they are your EAP, you can choose to speak to a coach just like myself. We have coaches from all over the world. And throughout this webinar, if you have any questions, please post it on the chat. I'll try my best to get to them throughout the webinar, but if I miss anything, like hopefully I can get to them by the end of the webinar as well. And also a recording of the webinar will be sent to you. So don't worry if you miss anything out. For today, I'll be asking quite a few questions. So I like to ask a lot of questions during the webinar because I think that doing reflections during the webinar is a nice thing. So if you like to do written reflections, you may go grab a piece of paper and a pen. Otherwise, like if you just want to do reflections in your head, like that works as well. So like I said, I'll start off with a question. Just to get a feel of everyone in the room, maybe think about a time when you made a mistake or you had a setback. What did you do, or what was it that you said to yourself? If you're comfortable, you can type in the chat. If you're not, it's okay as well. You can write it down or just do some reflection for yourself. Okay, so for Steve, you say like you should have anticipated that. What can I do to avoid this in future? Why did I do this again? I'm so dumb. I'll never change. Okay, for Kate, like acknowledge the error and try to do what you could to put it right. Jermaine says like, I can't do this. I know how did this happen? This is too hard. Feel stupid again. Yeah, I'm not good at this. Yeah, thank you all for sharing. So that's something that like a lot of times, you know, whenever we make a mistake, we might criticize ourselves or we might say, I can't do it, like not good enough, must be perfect. Oh, what's wrong with me? So these are things that are very common for all of us as human beings. But imagine yourself carrying the weight of all of these expectations, all of these negative messages that you constantly say to yourself. Uh, for many of us, this is something that we probably do a lot of the time, and we might not even notice it. But some, like we might take pride in being hard on yourself, like hard on ourselves as a sign of like ambition and resolution to be our best selves. Like maybe if you have heard someone say, I need to be hard on myself, otherwise like I won't improve, I'll get lazy. Um, but there's a wealth of research that shows that actually self-criticism, uh, it backfires. It might not be the thing that will drive you or motivate you. So besides increasing our unhappiness and stress levels, self-criticism can also increase procrastination, makes us even less able to achieve our goals in the future. So today we are talking about trust and why it's important to know how you speak to yourself whenever you make a mistake or have a setback is because the way that you speak to yourself or the way that you view yourself can have an impact of how much you trust yourself. So imagine the things that you said to yourself. What if someone else said all those things to you? how would you feel? I know for myself, like I probably wouldn't really like that person, let alone like trust that person. Um, Probably want to keep my distance far, far away from them, and not be close to them. Like they're so mean. Why would you want to be around them? So that brings us back to ourselves. Like if you speak to yourself in a very harsh way, in a critical way, probably not have a very good trusting relationship with yourself. So why is it important to trust ourselves? Maybe I'll start off by defining a little bit about what self-trust is. So self-trust is not trusting ourselves to know all the answers, nor is it believing that you will always do the right things. It's about having the conviction that you'll be kind and respectful to yourself, regardless of the outcomes of your effort. So self-trust is this firm reliance on the integrity of yourself. And when we look at examples of people who are self-trusting, we find that these people, they might have more clarity or confidence in their choices. They are interdependent. So that means like there's a healthy amount of dependency, but also not overly dependent or hyper independent. And they speak with authority that comes from a deep place within, but it's not arrogance. So they are good observers and have cultivated the ability to learn from their experiences. When I talk about experiences, it's both like successes and their failures. So for me, when I think about people who possess some of these qualities, what comes to mind are maybe some mindfulness teachers or some religious leaders. But of course, like with everyone, your experience with someone who trusts themselves is probably different from me as well. So when when we talk about people who can trust themselves, they are not punitive when they make mistakes. They can look openly at their experiences without any fear of criticism or self-punishment. Because like if your agenda is to protect yourself from any external or internal criticisms, it's going to be difficult for you to examine your own experience because your intention is to protect yourself. And it's difficult for you to learn when your intention is protecting yourself. So most of us, we want to improve. And in order to do that, we need to trust ourselves. So a lot of times, we might tend to associate personal growth with determination, persistence, and hard work. But often this process starts with reflection. So that's why in this webinar, there are some questions that I have asked or will ask to help kickstart that process of reflection. And lastly, like one of the important requirements for self-improvement is to have a realistic assessment of where we stand, knowing our own strengths, our limitations. Because if we try to convince ourselves that we are better than what we are, this might lead to us having a sense of complacency. But on the other hand, if we think that we are worse off than where we are, we might have a defeated mindset. So when people treat themselves with compassion, they are better able to arrive at a more realistic self-appraisal. And this is the foundation for improvement. So treating oneself with kindness, understanding, without judgment, alleviates fears about social disapproval. And then it can pave the way for us to be more authentic when it comes to our relationships, our conversations, the things that we do in life. So if you were to trust yourself just 10% more, what do you think would be different in your life? Maybe like what would be different at work, at home, with your friends, with your partner. If you want, you can share with us in the chat. Oh, more than 10% happier? That's nice. Be more relaxed and accommodating. Try more things that scares you. Feel less stressed, less worried, more confidence. 10% faster. Let things go. Attempt more things, take more risks, more productive, more self-esteem, more confident in decision making. So I think like for many it's like try things that you're afraid of trying, be more confident, less stress, more relaxed. So these are all great things to do. Like if we can just even trust ourselves, like just this 10% more. So that's where we're going to move on to the next part today. So how can we then develop a better relationship with ourselves? So why I talk about like developing a better relationship with ourselves is just like when we want to have a better relationship with other people, like usually it starts off with trust. So in order to develop a better relationship with ourselves, we also want to build that trust with ourselves. And one way to develop a better relationship with ourselves is through cultivating self-compassion. So most of us find it very easy to demonstrate compassion, maybe for a friend, for someone else, for a loved one, whenever they're experiencing a difficult time in life. Having self-compassion would mean treating ourselves with that same kindness and understanding that we would treat a good friend, a loved one, whenever we are going through a tough time. And what I've noticed is that I think many people have a difficulty with treating themselves with kindness, with compassion. And of course, for me, it's the same thing. Sometimes I can be harsher to myself as compared to a friend. So let's do a little bit of reflection. If you have a pen and paper, this is where you can take it out and write, or you can also do this reflection in your mind. That's okay as well. So think about a time when your close friend is struggling or feeling bad about him or herself. And either write down a piece of paper or just do a bit of reflection on how you would typically respond. And now think about a time that you felt bad about yourself or you are struggling. And also write down or reflect on how you would typically respond. Did you notice a difference? So when I do this exercise with most people, maybe my clients or even with myself, like many of us tend to notice that we are kinder to our friends. We are more supportive. We are less critical. But when it comes to ourselves, we believe that, well, many of us, not all of us, like believe that maybe we need to be more harsh or we need to be more critical. Otherwise, if we are not harsh on ourselves or not critical on ourselves, we might not improve. Like that's something that we are also afraid of. We need to be harsh, we need to be critical, then only we can do better. And if you notice the same things, it's okay. Like this is something that happens to many of us, but it might be a sign that maybe it's time to cultivate a little bit more compassion for yourself. So the first step of developing self-compassion, is knowing that we are going through a difficult time. So this is like the first part of self-compassion, which is mindfulness. So being aware, right, of ourselves, our body, our emotions, and this allows us to keep an open mind, to recognize what's happening in the present moment without any judgment, but we're also not ignoring it. And the second part of self-compassion is that once we acknowledge and recognize that we're going through a difficult time, it's important to recognize that we are not alone in our suffering. So a lot of times when we are struggling or feeling frustrated, it can feel very lonely. And what can help is this notion of common humanity. So recognizing that all humans suffer, that when we make mistakes or when we have difficult moments, this is all part of being human. And the third part of it is self-kindness. So self-compassion, it entails us being warm and understanding towards ourselves when we suffer, fail, or feel inadequate, rather than just ignoring our pain or putting ourselves down. So to cultivate self-compassion, we can learn to speak to ourselves gently. For example, instead of saying, "What's wrong with you?" when you make a mistake, you can say to yourself, "Oh, that's not an easy situation. I am here for you. We all make mistakes sometimes. It's okay." And another part of self-compassion that I want to talk about is the yin and yang of self-compassion. So earlier with the examples I gave, that's the yin part of self-compassion, the part where people usually associate self-compassion with. But there's another part of self-compassion that I think is slightly lesser known, is the yang form. So with the yang of self-compassion, that the three components that I shared earlier, they show up as fierce or empowered truth. So self-kindness can mean that we protect ourselves. We stand up for ourselves. Say no. Like, no, you cannot harm me this way, or no, I don't want to do that. And common humanity helps us to recognize that we are not alone. So we can stand together in experiences. For example, whenever instead of being harmed, we can be empowered as a result. So take for example, if you are a number of you are being bullied at your workplace, so instead of just, okay, yes, I'll be bullied, that's fine, it's okay. But maybe if there's a group of you, like all of you are standing up together, or you are just standing up for yourself, like that is also self-compassion. And the last part, mindfulness, like that allows us to see the truth clearly. So we are choosing not to avoid seeing or telling whatever it is in order not to rock the boat. So the boat needs to be rocked. Like I shared earlier, it can come in the form of like standing up for yourself, maybe standing up for your colleagues, standing up for your family, so that you can stand up for your own rights to protect yourself from discrimination, protect yourself from harm. If you are in a burning building, you wouldn't just stand there and comfort yourself, "Oh, it's okay. The building's burning, but it's okay." But instead, like if you were compassionate, you would actually take action and you'll try to get out of there. So in yin self-compassion, we hold ourselves with love, validating, soothing, we comfort our pain. But with young self-compassion, we act in the world to protect ourselves and to provide what we need. So I want to take you through a self-compassion practice. This will be a very short practice, and it'll involve you thinking of a situation that is a difficult situation that you went through, something that's not too easy but not too difficult, maybe like a 4 out of 10 on a difficulty scale. So if you can, get comfortable. If you need to stretch, because for some of you it's your lunchtime. Maybe you've been sitting all day, maybe you've been stuck in your house. So get into a comfortable position. And once you're ready, you can either close your eyes or keep your eyes focused on one spot. And now bring to mind a situation that's difficult for you. One that's a 4 out of 10 on a difficulty scale. So something that's not too easy, but not too hard as well. See whether you can remember who was there, what was being said, what were the thoughts that went through your mind, what were the emotions that you felt. How did your body feel? While holding this difficult situation in mind, just say to yourself, this is a difficult situation. Or it can even be, ouch, that hurts. Still holding the situation in mind, saying to yourself, I am not alone in this situation. Suffering is a part of life. There are others that are going through a hard time, just like me. Now placing your hand over your chest or over any part of your body that brings you comfort. And see whether you can say some words of kindness to yourself. It can be, may I begin to accept myself as I am. Or, I am here for you. If you find it difficult to find words of kindness, think about what you might say to a friend who is going through a difficult time, and see whether you can find those same words, those words of kindness for yourself. Allowing the kindness to flow through your hand to the rest of your body. Slowly releasing your hand. Taking one more breath in. Opening your eyes and returning to the room. So that's a very short version of the self-compassion break. It's the 3 elements that I shared about earlier: mindfulness, common humanity, and kindness. So you can do this self-compassionate break anytime that you notice like you're going through a hard time, made a mistake, or even whenever you are having conflict with someone and you feel like it's really challenging for you in that moment. So just some essential questions when it comes to self-compassion. Self-compassion is about knowing your needs. So things you can reflect on is like, what do I need? How would you treat a friend in the same situation? Or like, how do you care for yourself already? For myself, I just write a very small post-it, stick it on my wall, and I wrote like, what do I need? So it's just something to remind myself, and you can do the same, whatever it is, however you can remind yourself to check in with you at any time of the day. And lastly, like, find a way to keep track of your own successes. So maybe list down the things that you've done well, some things that you've done well at home, at work, in society, with your friends. It's almost like being grateful. So noticing like, what is it you're grateful for, or what is it you did well today? And today, we talk about self-compassion towards the second half of the webinar. But remember, like, self-compassion is an essential element in developing self-trust. Just like I shared earlier, if you had a nasty friend who always puts you down, probably wouldn't trust that person. Or maybe that person probably wouldn't even be your friend. So developing self-trust is becoming that kind friend to ourselves, being aware of our own beliefs, our shortcomings, and being able to embrace and accept every part of ourselves. So if you still want to find out more like about like self-trust, or maybe you have those negative thoughts, I'm not good enough, you can always go to our Uprise app. And if Uprise is your EAP, like I shared earlier, you can book a coaching call with any of the coaches. We have coaches from all around the world, so you can choose anyone. And that's about it. Like, do you have any questions? We have about a minute and a half left. Yeah, if you all have no questions, please help leave feedback as well. So there's the feedback form that Team Uprise has posted in the chat. So I really appreciate if you all can share some feedback as well. All right, I see all of you saying thank you. So I will also say thank you to all of you. Hopefully you learned something from this. Hopefully it's been helpful. And I wish all of you a great day and a good rest of the week.